It is the Fans College Football Podcast. Barrett, Sallee, John Michaels with you. We do it every week. We talk about a wild and crazy sport, and man, it was wild and crazy this weekend. John, you and I are based in Atlanta, so I guess let's kick it off with the Bulldogs. I did not think that they could win a shootout like this. Gunnar Stockton, right out of the gate with the 21-7 deficit, was in under a ton of pressure, not only just because of the sheer score, but that poor young man was running for his life. His offensive line did not do him any favors. So for Georgia to go into Tennessee, win a game like that in a very uncomfortable way, in a way they don't want to win, to me, that answers so many questions about a team that's fighting for a national championship.
Yeah, and it just felt like for Tennessee, this is once again in your brain that you can't beat Georgia. They had every opportunity, Barrett. You mentioned 21-7. Joey Aguilar gets off to a 14-for-14 start. He's playing unbelievable football. Their defense is getting after Gunnar Stockton. They made Georgia's offensive line actually make a change at right tackle throughout. But then when the game comes on the line, I think things puckered up a little bit for Josh Heupel. They got really conservative down the stretch. They weren't able to come up with a field goal, obviously, that would have won it. And the second that game goes overtime, you know that Georgia's going to win it. I learned a lot about Georgia. I learned a lot about Tennessee as well. Chris Brazzell can absolutely go make plays. I thought their defense came off the edge with some authority. They're going to be a pain in the butt for everybody through the rest of the year. Unfortunately for them, they lost a chance to put themselves in position to beat one of the best teams in the SEC.
Yeah, one of the narratives that I saw out of that was, well, Tennessee can still make the college. I'm like, yeah, of course they can make the college football playoff. They did it last year, right? Like that. And there's nothing to me from that game that suggests that Tennessee can fall out of the playoff race, except the fact that there's a 1 at the end of their record now. Right. That's the only reason. That team is certainly one of the top 12 teams in college football. I think they showed it. And man, Joey Aguilar, what an incredible story. I think Tennessee definitely won the UCLA Nico Iamaleava trade because my goodness, UCLA is a train wreck after firing Deshaun Foster. But you look, Tennessee, everyone's got to win. There's got to be a loser in every game. There's got to be a loser in every game. There's no shame in that. How Tennessee lost that game, yeah, you can pick and choose little instances here and there, but there is absolutely nothing to suggest that Tennessee is not one of the top 12 teams in the country and ultimately will make the college football playoff, which they did last year, and it did not work out very well for them. But you know what? You're there. You have established yourself as a program that can do that, so you might as well build off of that run, and I think they did. Sticking in our neck of the woods, Brent Key, there is no better coach that I want to root for. Brent Key, he makes that program so much fun to watch. Those players, specifically Haynes King, took his personality and ran with it. That's why they're so good. You can sit here if you're a coach, and you and I have been around a lot of coaches, and we've seen it from all different angles. If a coach tries to be something that he isn't, then you're going to fail. It's like Will Muschamp at Florida, right? He tried to be Nick Saban. That didn't work because players can sense frauds. They can sense when they're not being told the truth. Brent Key tells his team the truth, and they take after him. It's that hard-nosed approach. There's not a better coach in the country in terms of who people want to root for. They deserved that win. And poor Clemson and Dabo, again, Cade Klubnik is a guy who had all this hype going in. I was in that building when DJ Uiagalelei was still there. Cade Klubnik was this hotshot freshman. It was game 1 in the Chick-fil-A Kickoff Classic, and they absolutely erupted when Cade Klubnik came in. At that point, they thought he was the hotshot prospect, and he has regressed since that point.
Yeah, I would say he hasn't lived up to what we thought even coming into this year. And Clemson got a lot of love last year because of the way things finished. Remember, they lose their final game to South Carolina. And they're out. The season's over. They're going to a bowl game. And then Fran Brown at Syracuse actually helps them get in. Cade Klubnik then has a good ACC championship game. He throws for a ton of yards against Texas. Oh, by the way, they lost by a couple of touchdowns. But I think based on those last 2 games that they were fortunate to even be in, people bought into the hype. I was at the game on Saturday afternoon. They got whipped in the trenches. Georgia Tech was better on the lines of scrimmage. Maybe not on defensive line because I know Parker and those guys are really good. TJ Parker and obviously their linebacker and Sammy Brown. They're really good there. But their offensive line struggles. And until they get that fixed, they couldn't run the ball really well. Cade Klubnik had some issues in that game. Georgia Tech, there was nothing fluky about this. They were the better team on Saturday afternoon, and I couldn't be happier for a guy like Brent Key, who's been one of the most genuine dudes we have ever met in this industry. He's going to do big things for Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is now a favorite to make the ACC title game. Mm-hmm. 7 of their games that are left in the ACC are against 7 of the bottom 10 teams in that conference. It sets up beautifully for the Jackets.
Guess who picked them to go to the college football playoff before the season? This guy right here. This guy. I did it.
We'll see him there.
Again, you can be 10-2. You can go to the SC or ACC championship game like SMU and Clemson and still make it. So, but I think that going from that conversation now, it ends up going to the conversation of Virginia Tech and UCLA. They had to fire Brent Pry and Deshaun Foster, respectively. Those 2 programs are abject disasters. I've seen when you talk about openings, Brent Key's name mentioned a lot. Now, there are other names, right? Shane Beamer, whatever. Doesn't matter. Michael Vick, which would be awesome at Virginia Tech, incidentally. But Brent Key's name is going to be brought up in a lot of these. There is no way, shape, or form that Brent Key is leaving Georgia Tech. He is Yellow Jacket through and through. So, yes, there are going to be massive openings. There are going to be SEC openings. There are going to be Big Ten openings. There are going to be openings in which some of these ADs are just going to back up Brinks trucks, throw cash at Brent Key, and then when they're out of cash in that Brinks truck, they're going to go get another one, and they're going to start throwing even more cash at him. He's not leaving. He is absolutely not leaving. He's a Georgia Tech guy. He loves that program. He loves his kids. He thinks he can build a champion there, and I think he's right. So Florida, when you fire Billy Napier, he's not coming. He's not going to be your head coach. You got to look somewhere else.
Yeah, he's not. Brent Key is the perfect guy for Georgia Tech because he had blood, sweat, and tears on that field. He played at Georgia Tech. He got his first head coaching opportunity at Georgia Tech, obviously getting the job when Jeff Collins was let go a couple of years ago. And he's built the program his way, Barrett. It's offensive line. It's defensive line. It's the toughest son of a gun you'll ever meet at quarterback in Haynes King. And they're set up for future success. Aaron Philo is right behind Haynes King. That's your quarterback next year when Haynes graduates. Guess what? You're in really good hands, and Brent Key doesn't want to go anywhere. And I think them keeping Buster Faulkner, signing him to an extension during the offseason, only further fuels the reason that Brent Key is going to stick around.
Yeah, Buster Faulkner isn't leaving either unless he gets a head coaching job. Now, he might actually take one, obviously, for obvious reasons, but they're set up very well at Georgia Tech. I did mention Florida. Mm-hmm. Did anybody tell DJ Lagway that his Gators were wearing the blue shirts?
Oh, not
because I'm not sure somebody told him that they did. Because if you're talking about quarterback bus in terms of the hype preseason, everybody's going to point to Arch Manning, and he deserves it. But DJ Lagway is like on a whole different level. That was horrendous.
It was terrible. And those 2 guys are poster children for why the 5-star ratings, especially at quarterback, are never a guarantee. I saw something from 24/7 from 2014 until last year. Half of the 5-star quarterbacks turned out to be busts. Now, I don't know that Arch Manning or DJ Lagway are going to be busts, but for 2025, they are the most overhyped, underachieving pair in all of college football. DJ Lagway has 18 touchdowns and 16 interceptions in his year plus being a starting quarterback. And the throws that he made against LSU were some of the worst throws I've ever seen. Down 20-10, with a chance to kick a field goal with about 6 minutes left, he just lobs the ball down the middle of the field into triple coverage. And then his 5th interception, he's rolling left and just throws back across his body to nobody. DJ Pickett, who's a 6'5" defensive back, runs up and picks it off. His pick 6 really changed the game. And Brian Kelly knew, all I got to do is run the ball, and this kid's going to keep giving it back to me. Florida's in trouble. The reason Billy Napier is still the head coach was the prospect of DJ Lagway being great. If he's average or worse than average, Billy Napier has no chance of keeping a job.
There's no doubt about that. And look, I'll be honest with you. And I know Brian Kelly got upset about everything after the game, but Florida deserved to win that game. They won in every aspect other than the most important part. I get that. But I mean, if DJ only throws 3 interceptions instead of 5, Florida probably wins that game. That's how bad it was. All right, let's get to this week. My boys, the Auburn Tigers, going to Norman to take on the Oklahoma Sooners in a really interesting battle of quarterbacks because you have John Mateer. He's been awesome. He's one of the Heisman favorites. But then you have Jackson Arnold going back to Oklahoma where he was last year and where he was also one of the top, you talk about top 5, top 10 quarterback prospects. He was a 5-star can't miss guy 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I should say. And he didn't have any of his wide receivers at Oklahoma last year. I thought he was unfairly criticized because if you lose your top 5 receivers, you're not going to be good. Well, now he's got Eric Singleton. Now he's got Cam Coleman. Now he's got dudes that he trusts. And plus, Jeremiah Cobb is one of the best running backs that nobody knows about at all. You get Alston back, hopefully, if you're Auburn. But I think the other side is where this game is going to be won and lost because Auburn's defense has been rock solid, save for 2 scripted drives against South Alabama. I think when you see John Mateer drop back, you better look for Keldrick Falk too, because that guy is going to be all over him. Now, I'm not saying he's going to win those battles, but those two, that matchup, Falk versus Mateer, I cannot wait to see what happens there because it is one of the top individual matchups you'll see all season.
I'll be fascinated to watch Oklahoma's defense against Auburn's offense. I got in a lot of hot water with Auburn fans when I said they wish they were Georgia Tech. And if anybody actually listened to the context, it had to do with the transfer of Eric Singleton. But I stand by that. Georgia Tech has shown that they can win a big game against a top 15 opponent in Clemson. Can Auburn do the same? And I think Oklahoma's defense, which has been way better this year with Brent Venables, is going to employ a similar game plan that they did against Michigan. Make Jackson Arnold throw the football. He's unbelievable with his legs. Make him get the ball out to Cam Coleman. Make him get it out to Eric Singleton. Damari Alston, we'll see if he ends up coming back at running back. I know he's been banged up the last couple of weeks, which gives Auburn a great 1-2 combination. But I think the chess match between Auburn's offense and Oklahoma's defense could be the telling point in this one. I like Oklahoma close. I think home field advantage is going to roll out for them. But I think it's going to be a very, very good SEC game that at the beginning of the year, nobody would have been paying attention to.
Yeah, I'll take Auburn close. I wouldn't bet this game with your money or anybody's money. Like this is one of those games where I'm just like, whatever. I have no idea, but I'll take Auburn close. And look, is it because I'm a homer? People can say that if they want to, but I do think I've always said Jackson Arnold was so unfairly criticized at Oklahoma, and that young man's going to go out there, and I think he's going to prove to the Oklahoma fans that, yeah, you know what? You might not have me. You might like your quarterback now, but I can still do this thing. How many people, raise your hand if you're on the podcast, if you thought Indiana versus Illinois was going to be one of the biggest games? No, I'm going to put my hand down. No. I definitely did not think that. But here we are. Luke Altmaier, Fernando Mendoza. Fernando Mendoza, of course, former Cal quarterback. Luke Altmaier's been at Illinois for a couple of years. He was at Ole Miss back in the day. Look, I think talking about identities, right? This Illinois team is Brett Bielema, to a T, to a T. And Indiana, look, I like Indiana. My producer for the Braves Radio Network is diehard Indiana. He's probably going to get mad at me, but this Illinois team, they're not sexy, but I do think that they're this year's Indiana team from last year. One of those Big Ten teams you're like, you don't even pay attention to. And then you're like, oh, dang, they might make the playoffs. And so I think they win this game. I think they cover. Actually, they're underdogs, so I think they win it outright.
So if you watched a couple of weeks ago, which only sick guys like you and I were watching, Illinois and Duke play in the Cupcake Week, Illinois bludgeoned Duke. I mean, they just lined up and they're going to kick their ass from the word go. And that's their style of football. But on the flip side, Indiana is a perfect example of mirroring their head coach in Kirk Cignetti. They're tough as hell. And Mendoza was one of those underrated transfer portal kids that you get in to take over for Rourke, who was the quarterback a year ago. This one has a chance to be knockdown, drag out. I guess the only disappointment for a lot of people is the game day's not there this upcoming week. His game day chose to go down to Paradise and go to South Florida. But I think the maybe better game is going to be Indiana and Illinois. I think the sexier matchup as far as being on the beach and being in Coral Gables obviously is what's going to happen down in Miami.
Paradise. Miami Gardens in the middle of a racetrack.
Well, no, they're actually
I know that's not where they're going to be. Yeah,
they're going to be on campus. It'll be a little different.
Although when you're driving to that stadium and you end up in the middle of an F1 track, it's like, wow, this is pretty dang cool. This is not normal. Texas Tech and Utah, Big 12. I mean, look, talking about odd matchups, but both of these teams in the top 20. This is an interesting game because Baron Morton is at Texas Tech and they bought everybody. You're talking about teams that can have success in NIL. Texas Tech is that team. And, Baron Morton's been one of those guys that I think kind of hurt him in times, bounced around in terms of could he be a star? Could he not be a star? Well, I think he can. But Devin Dampier is another guy at Utah where, you've kind of heard the name, but you haven't really watched him all that much. We talk about identities. Again, I love identities and Kyle Whittingham, but give me Texas Tech. I think they've got that offensive line is clicking. You're going to have the ability to get creative with how they use Morton and how they use that offense in general, how they use that entire running back core. So I'll take Texas Tech. I think when you look at that line, I think it's 4.5. I think it popped up to 5 for a second, but now it's back down to 4.5. I'll take Texas Tech. I think this is a good spot for them to make a statement.
I'm going to go the other side because I like the legs of Dampier. And when Utah's at their best, they're going to run the football. They're going to play some great defense. And now you have a dual threat quarterback who could throw it and could run it some. I'm still not bought on the bot team at Texas Tech. And maybe it's because I haven't watched them a whole lot. I know Morton threw for about 450 a week ago and beat somebody in my college fantasy league, which is always where I learn about a lot of different players. But I still have to see, can they gel in a situation like this where they're actually going to be tested and probably be punched in the mouth. I'll take Utah on a close one. Kyle Whittingham has shown ways over many years to win these type of games.
All right, I'm going to cede the analysis to you on this one, but I think it's my question will answer exactly what my pick is. Why is Miami not a 20-point favorite over Florida?
Vegas is still trying to get something on both sides. That line opened at 3. And then immediately jumped up to like 8.5, 7.5, 8.5. That's the only reason. And being like an analysis and trying not to be full-fledged homer. Florida actually plays really good defense. They've only given up 2 offensive touchdowns to other teams of the entire year. The difference is they're going to play the best offense they played. No apologies to LSU. Miami is infinitely better than them on offense. You know why? Because they have 5 guys up front that are giving Carson Beck all day to throw the football. Francis Malinois, Markel Bell on the edge, 3 guys on the interior who could flat out get it done. Miami can run the football. They've got wide receivers who can go catch it. Carson Beck's completing almost 80% of his passes. DJ Lagway will give us at least 2 of them this week. I think Miami wins convincingly, and Billy Napier might be out of a job come Monday morning.
I think it might happen come Saturday night. In all honesty, I mean, he might get Kiffin. Now let's get to our bold predictions. Look, I don't like that Oregon State is an out of conference matchup now. I wish Oregon State would have somehow managed to find its way to be with Oregon, to stay married to the Ducks. I get it. You still have the contract and they're going to play every year. And okay, that's fine. But I loved when this game actually mattered in terms of a conference race, whether it be the Pac-12 or potentially what it could have been in the Big Ten. I know the Big Ten didn't really want Oregon State because why would you? It doesn't bring anything. But this one is going to be a situation where Dan Lanning, I mean, I love that man with every fiber of my being. That guy is absolutely awesome. And he is going to light up the Beavers, and you're going to see Dante Moore jump from 4th, 5th, 6th in the Heisman Trophy odds to a consensus number 1, and that gap's going to be pretty big. Because when you're looking at the Heisman Trophy odds right now, and this is as of 11:23 on Monday morning, no offense to your dude Carson Beck, but he's leading at plus 800. Then it's John Mateer, Gunnar Stockton, Jeremiah Smith, and then you find Dante Moore at plus 1,300. I'm sorry, but Carson Beck, John Mateer, Gunnar Stockton, Jeremiah Smith, none of them have really done anything special, with the exception of maybe Gunnar Stockton last week. But you're going to see something special out of Dante Moore. He's going to be the consensus Heisman Trophy favorite after winning and lighting up Oregon State in the Civil War.
The Civil War also should be played on the last weekend of the season. Normally it'd be snowing in Corvallis. You'd see those 2 fan bases who despise each other. Anytime you call a game the Civil War, it should be there. How about this, Big Ten? I got a trade proposal for you. Take Oregon State and send UCLA packing because they've got their own issues out there. So there's my trade proposal for the Big Ten. My bold prediction will go along the same Heisman lines. The best player in the country won't be in the Heisman Trophy. He will not be in the ceremony. The best player in college football is named Rueben Bain. And you'll see more of number 4 off the edge from Miami. He's Pro Football Focus's highest graded defensive player for the entire season, over a 90 grade right now. The guy lost weight. He got in the best shape of his life. He was a great prospect coming out, had 7.5 sacks as a true freshman. Injuries derailed his sophomore year. He is the best player in college football right now. Unfortunately, because he plays defensive end, unless he comes up with 25 sacks throughout the year, he will not make it to the Heisman Trophy ceremony, but he will be a top 5 pick coming up next year. Learn the name. If you don't know Rueben Bain, it's Payne from Rueben Bain.
Some puns need to happen, and that's one of them.
Maybe
lock of the week. I'm going to go full Chuck Oliver, king of college football, with my lock of the week. It's going to involve Georgia State. It's also going to involve Vanderbilt. We saw Vandy and Diego Pavia just absolutely light up South Carolina. And look, talking about coaches I love, Clark Lee's one of those guys too. This feels like one of those Vandy letdowns. And I know it's a different Vandy team, but usually when they have a big win or they at least test somebody, the next week is just ugly. It's just stupid. It's boring. And Georgia State's not very good. I understand that. So under 53.5, because I think in this one, if you're going to go over, if this game's going to go over, Vandy's probably going to have to score 41, 42 points. And this is going to be one of those Vandy 23-13 type games where it's just everybody sucks. So give me under 53.5.
And I love it. Vandy ranked. They absolutely strangled South Carolina last week.
Yes, they did.
Lenore Sellers is okay. He ended up leaving the game with a head injury. My lock of the week will also be the under in the Miami-Florida game. I think both of these teams play really good defense. The Canes, Corey Heatherman might be the hire of the year because he took them from the outhouse to the penthouse with the way they get after it. TJ Lagway is going to be seeing ghosts. I have a hard time seeing Florida scoring over 17 points. Miami probably scores in the 30s, but that game's going to go under the point spread. That's my lock of the week.
The only way Florida scores 17 or more is if they start counting DJ Lagway pick sixes toward the orange and blue. That's the only way that happens.
I hope so.
Right.
I'm 6 rows up. And section 106, so if he comes running my way, if they come running my way with a pick six, you might see me jump on the field and high five somebody.
I don't doubt it. I think the over-under, I think the odds on that are like maybe 2.5 to 1.
2 to 1. Yeah,
2 to 1. All right. This has been the Fans College Football Podcast. He's John Michaels. I'm Barrett Sallee. You can listen to us every single week. And of course, you can hear us, John, every morning on 680 The Fan, 93.7 in Atlanta, and myself, Braves Clubhouse Report, and Braves Pre and Post every night, pretty much every night on the Braves Radio Network. So if you like this podcast, if you don't like this podcast, leave a review as well. But if you like it, leave a review, share it with your friends, share it with everybody you know, and we'll talk to you next week.